AITA for blowing up on my wife for spending 8K on a motorcycle for my stepson? NTA. Here's the thing, if someone gave me an $8,000 gift and I found out it was using someone else's money, I would be angry that the gift giver stole from someone else. I wouldn't resent the victim. Take a good minute to think about that. If your stepson had any decency, there would be no chance he'd resent you. Don't feel bad about insisting on your wife coming up with the entire amount back somehow. I doubt you'll get the whole amount back from the motorcycle. NTA. Financial infidelity is just as damaging to a marriage as physical infidelity. ImHo. I'd be thinking some serious thoughts about what is going on in your wife's head, like how did she think you would react, why didn't she care, and was she actively trying to sabotage you from contributing to your son's wedding? NTA. WTF. She bought a motorcycle for 8K, never mind using money that's not hers, and expected you to just be okay with it. Huge red flag. There was no respect for boundaries here. NTA. Your wife puts her son over yours. As far as she is concerned, that money belongs to her son. The real questions are: did your wife know the 8K was for your son and knew that when you started setting the money aside? I'm assuming yes. Why does she put her son over yours in such an asshole manner? That is a discussion you really need to have with her. NTA. You need to separate your finances immediately so that she can never pull a stunt like that again. She does not have your back and never will. She is okay with crushing your son while providing her son with yet another toy. This is a hill I would die on. She needs to return your money to you. If she doesn't, talk to your stepson and tell him that his mother embezzled the money from you to buy the motorcycle and that the motorcycle will need to be taken back and the money returned. He needs to understand that, if he is upset, the blames rest solely on his mother. Frankly, I would give her two choices. Return the money in 2 days, or pack up, get out. You needs to get yourself an attorney and file for divorce. Info: has she added any money to that account, or is it only your contributions? Just curious if it's a joint account and if she's contributed to it over time. If she hasn't, she isn't off for spending $8,000 without talking to you about it, especially since you had it earmarked. If she has, it's a little muddier. Did she agree that all the money goes to the wedding? Still, unless she contributed $8,000 or close to it, she's at minimum esh for not discussing how to spend joint funds. Defended herself saying she can't do that because it'd be devastating for my stepson. NTA. She should have thought about it before going behind your back and stealing your money. She's guilt-tripping you. Don't give her a leg to stand on. Talk to your stepson, explain the situation before she lies to him. Say that while it sucks, you two can figure out how to get him a new bike. But this time perhaps you only pay for half and he pays for other half, not right now, over time. That way maybe he'll start looking after his own stuff and stop breaking them. While I understand he might be a good kid, everything is given to him. He will end up never appreciating stuff because he doesn't put money, time, and sweat into what he uses. NTA. She straight up stole from you and is trying to make you out to be the bad guy. You might consider taking legal actions if she doesn't cooperate. NTA. I would be so upset if my spouse made a huge purchase like that behind my back. Especially after saying no when it was first mentioned. NTA. This is a marriage-ending betrayal on the part of your wife. NTA, that's called theft. Maybe, she should have asked for the down payment and help her son get a loan. It would help him build good credit. NTA. Your wife was completely out of line in stealing from you, in trying to force your hand by making a song and dance over the motorcycle as a surprise gift for her son, and in trying to emotionally blackmail you into going along with her by claiming that her son will be devastated. Your wife needs to return the motorcycle immediately, before your stepson has a chance to damage it. If she refuses to return the motorcycle, she leaves you no alternative but to explain to your stepson that she stole money to buy his Christmas gift, and that the motorcycle has to go back. I also strongly recommend that you separate your finances post-haste. Wow! I think you know your NTA. Your wife massively overstepped and effectively stole your money. Why didn't she discuss it with you? Did she think that money was there for her discretion? Did she know you were saving for your son's wedding? Presumably you can take the bike back? Your stepson, if he's got any decency about him, will probably be horrified that his mother stole money put aside for your son's wedding. This is why joint accounts should only be for bills. It's insanity to share finances. NTA. After she returns it, you should separate your finances and only have a joint account for bills. NTA. Spending 8K out of a shared account without discussing and getting approval/compromise from the other party is shitty, untrustworthy behavior. Your spouse is picking her son's third motorcycle over your son's first wedding. Disgusting. And who spends 8K on a Christmas gift? NTA. She went behind your back and made a decision to get her son a very expensive gift with money that wasn't hers to spend. She needs to be the one to break it to her son honestly and own up to her actions. NTA. Your son could resent you if you don't have the bike returned. This is blatant disrespect from your wife. You even talked about it before Christmas and she did it anyway. NTA. Your wife knew that money was put aside for your son's wedding. It's not like you didn't do stuff for her son. He had already trashed 2 bikes that had cost you a ton of money. Basically your wife stole a good part of your son's wedding that he was promised. Saying get over it because the money is already gone, is saying she thinks your son's wedding, and your feelings and the matter don't matter, and she can just take what was already promised to someone else. She is selfish and rude and doesn't really care about you or your son. It is solely her fault if her son gets upset losing the new bike. She never had the right to buy it. Info. Did you consult your wife about giving that money to your son? Or were those funds just yours? NTA. Your wife made a huge purchase without consulting you. NTA. Your wife essentially stole money from your son to give to your stepson. Based on your comments it sounds like she knew the purpose of the money and did it anyway. If you returned the bike and got the money back, you would not be the one being cruel to your stepson. She was the one who was cruel by putting him in a position to have his Christmas gift taken back. She is leveraging your guilt to try and get her way. NTA. And that is divorce-worthy, so it won't matter how much resentment your stepson feels. NTA. You discussed it, and she went against what you discussed, behind your back. That's not a small sum of money. NTA. It doesn't really matter where the money was for. If you or your wife wants to take out that much money, you should both agree on how you spend it. Also, just out of curiosity, you never asked your wife in the days leading up to Christmas what present she got for the 2 of you to give to your children? Or did you already have some other gifts and this was an extra surprise? Just trying to figure out how she kept this a secret. NTA. That money was already allocated for a purpose and she spent it without consulting you at all, or considering the consequences for you, your son, and for that matter your stepson. Info. Did she put money in the account too as it's a joint account? NTA. And grounds for divorce. Wow, she stole from your child to give to her own. NTA. You need to leave her. That's how she thinks of your family. As something to use. NTA, but this is way above your pay grade. You should talk to a lawyer. And a therapist. And your son. NTA. Take the bike back / sell it and recoup as much as possible. Tell your stepson that his mother stole the money from you, and if he protests, you will press charges against her. Use a bit of the money to change the locks and hire a divorce attorney after you close the joint account and open another which is entirely under your control. She stole from you, and from your son, then gave something purchased with ill-gotten gains to her own son. The only things she could have done that could have upended your house more is cheat on you or commit suicide. And please know, she isn't trying to avoid you. She's trying to figure out what she can hide from you before you find it and / or what else she can get away with. NTA, this is why I have separate checking accounts. She asked, you said no, and she bought it anyway. As long as stepson is wrecking the motorcycles, he doesn't deserve a new one. Sell her car, let her ride one of the wrecked motorcycles. She does something shitty, then pushes it back on you. She doesn't care that you have to tell your son you now don't have the money to help with his wedding because stepmom bought stepson a new motorcycle to wreck. NTA. What I find amazing is Op's wife is worried her son will resent OP but doesn't seem to give a shit that Op's son will rightly resent her for stealing money promised to him. She is selfish. And OP made it clear his wife asked OP first and OP said no. And she took the money anyway. If this isn't grounds for divorce, OP needs to separate his finances and accounts. BC, his wife cannot be trusted. If the wife wants to buy her son expensive toys, she needs to get a job and do that with her own money. NTA, dang, it must suck to be married to someone who is such a manipulator. Get that money back pronto and open a new account under just your name. Matter of fact, if I were you, all my money would now be going into an account for just myself. Also, you both should listen to Dave Ramsey and set up a budget. I mean, I don't mean to be extreme, but this is 100% divorce-worthy in my eyes. NTA. DIVORCE. Sing it with me, my friend. NTA at all. Was this a joint account, and did she know beforehand that this money was for your son's wedding? NTA. Your wife took a substantial amount of money from your account without discussing it with you. What's worse is she did it behind your back because she knew the reaction you have had if she told you. NTA, especially because she asked you before and you clearly said you can't afford it. She went behind your back anyway. What an awe. NTA. Your wife took your money without consulting you first. That's fundamentally stealing, and I assume you've discussed the money with her in regards to setting it aside for your son's wedding. Her behavior was very selfish, and personally, if I were you, I would set up a private bank account and keep it from her. LOL. Petty, I know. NTA. Wow, just wow. Stepson has already had 2 motorcycles, he didn't need another one. Your wife talked to you about it and you said no. The money was being saved for another purchase, wedding. I'd separate finances right now. She has shown she can't be trusted with joint accounts because she spends what she pleases even after you say no, and you said no for 2 very good reasons. Money was being saved for wedding in 2 months, and SS already had gotten 2 previous motorcycles. NTA. Tell your wife, return it and get the money back in 2 days or you will. NTA. If you guys have joint accounts, any major expense has to be approved by both parties. Especially if you out the money aside for a purpose. Make your wife return the motorcycle and put the money in a different account. And may I suggest that you separate your finances, as she is clearly favoring her biological son over yours, and may take more decisions like this in the future. NTA. Your wife stole from you and your son. Now she's blaming you for it. Take the motorcycle back, explain the situation to your stepson, and then consider talking to either a marriage counselor or divorce attorney. This is 100% her purposeful choice to hurt you and your son for the sake of her kid. NTA. You specifically saved that money for your son. If getting her son a motorcycle was so important to her, she would have brought it up way earlier and contributed to fund it herself. AITA. Stick to your guns on this, and separate your finances since your wife clearly can't be trusted. NTA. Get that money back. But she is okay with your son resenting her? Her logic is unbelievably stupid. You are NTA. At the end of the day, somebody's son is going to be bummed out, and it's not going to be your son since the money was intended for him. She wants to get your stepson a motorcycle? Then she can get a part-time job to pay for it. NTA. The bike needs to go back. I would also go to the bank today and open your own bank account and put all of the money from your joint savings account into your new account before she blows through it. NTA. Divorce her. NTA. I'd like to make a correction. The step monster bought a bike for your son, she just didn't realize at the time. Take the bike, sell it, give what you owe you and claw back to your bio son, close all joint accounts. NTA. She need to put that 8K back. Doesn't matter how, but she needs to make sure that 8K is back ASAP. That's bullshit. This is beyond divorce worthy. Unbelievable. Has your wife always been such a selfish, uncaring so-and-so? NTA. It's her fault. She knew what that money was for and you'd already talked about the idea of a motorcycle. This is a huge issue between you two. NTA. Return the motorcycle and divorce your wife. What she did was completely shady and disrespectful. I'd also open a new account in your name alone and put any money you don't want her to blow in it. I really hope you see this comment, OP. Do not let your wife control of the narrative and talk to your stepson yourself. You need to be the one explaining that your wife took the money saved for his stepbrother wedding, otherwise she will paint herself as a victim, you as a heartless step-parent and your son as your favorite. NTA. NTA. It's not a question about being cruel to your stepson. Your wife is shifting the blame. She decided to make a huge purchase without consulting you, she's at fault for that. Not only did she not consult you, but I'd be willing to bet that she knew you would disagree and that it is the very reason why she didn't consult you. She wanted it to be a fait accompli to force your hand. Thus, she is the one who's being cruel to you and her son. She betrayed your trust and gave her son something that wasn't hers to give. She's right about one thing, you should not yell at her, and calming down would be a good idea. But it's absolutely a terrible idea of her to tell you you need to calm down when you're angry. That's one very infuriating sentence. Has anyone ever calmed down when told they needed to while angry? Is 22 just your son, or both of yours? Also, is the 8K family money? If it is family money, money you have earned since you and wife were married, and the 22 is just your son, it would be reasonable for wife to want some money for her kid and not just yours. Either way, there's communications and finance issues that need to be worked out between you and your wife. Edit. Just reread and saw you say 22's mom died. Enta, those monies had a purpose, and furthermore as a couple you two should consult each other's before spend 8K for a Christmas gift, she would break her son's heart, not you. NTA. Go in her jewelry box and pawn everything. NTA. Son. I'm sorry that's we have to return this money. Your mom stole this money from our account without me knowing. This money was already earmarked for bills we have to pay for your brother's wedding. I understand that this sucks, but I hope you are mature enough to understand that a wedding trumps a Christmas gift. Especially cause this wedding is coming soon, and if these bills aren't paid we will have huge financial issues. Return the bike sooner than later. Otherwise you may have an issue with the store. Then either divorce the wife or hit therapy immediately. Honestly, for what she did, it should be a deal breaker for me. She literally stole from you and your son for a unneeded present for her own son. She feels no repentance and thinks what she did is okay.